But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, me. In case you missed it, my good friend Zugzwang and I started designing and releasing Monster Hunter item replicas last year. Our first creation, a lore-accurate Rathalos plate with included parchment documents, is available again. Additionally, we are releasing 2 new products. First is a sample of Brachydios slime, contained in a small glass vial labeled according to guild standards. It's green, rustic, and gooey. Just like the Rathalos plate, this explosive material too comes with parchment documents that feature lore text written by me and art commissioned from the talented members of the Monster Hunter community. Second, you may remember that I recently reconstructed a speculative world map of Monster Hunter, using clues and official lore to pin down the geography of the series. You can now get this map for yourselves, drawn by me and printed on a large 12 by 16 inch parchment sheet, a perfect addition for those of you who really love this universe. You can get both of these items by heading on over to guildsurplus.com. Links are in the description. Alright, back to the video. Life is all about cooperation. We might often think of the natural world as a place of ruthless competition. And while such hardships and cruelty certainly have their place out in the wilds, just as often, nature is upheld by the steady interplay between cooperative species. This even applies to monsters. The discovery of the Zinogre species was especially significant in this context, as it presented one of the most distinct cases of monster symbiosis found up until that point. And it just so happened that the other landmark example of a large monster living symbiotically with another species was discovered shortly afterwards. Finding this second example species is, however, no small task. To do so, one must travel to some of the most inhospitable areas of our world. The volcanic regions, which appear on both the Old and New World continents. This landscape is part of the zone called the Elder's Recess, a vast volcanic zone on the New World continent. Here, magma flows freely around large, crystalline structures that grow from the very bedrock of the continent itself. It is an extremely energy-rich region for those powerful enough to brave its severity. And it is here where one can observe one of the most magnificent species of monster ever described by the Royal Academy, discovered by a lonesome ship captain. A Brachydios. At 16 meters long and 6 meters tall, this brute wyvern strikes an imposing and highly unusual silhouette. Like many members of its classification, the Brachydios walks on 2 muscular hind legs, while holding the front limbs under its chest, balanced by a long tail and powerful torso. Quite peculiar is the Brachydios' shell. Obsidian blue in color, This smooth armor advertises its components quite freely, as it is in fact made up of volcanic compounds such as obsidian. The odd texture of the carapace, meanwhile, betrays that this armor grows in layers across the wyvern's life, as the heat of the Brachydios' volcanic home regularly brings the surface of its armor just beyond its melting point, softening it for a time before natural fluctuations in temperature allow it to cool off again. This process continually tempers the shell, making it harder and more resilient the older the wyvern gets. Relying on an external process like this introduces great variability, and it is said that no two Brachydios look the same, as their color and sheen depends on the exact temperature conditions and chemical deposits that each individual wyvern has encountered. The obsidian shell is, however, not the main trait that distinguishes this wyvern from its kin. While other brute wyverns possess diminutive, underdeveloped front limbs, the Brachydios puts all of them to shame with its enormous forearms, composed of strong muscle strands and crowned with a bizarre battering ram made of the same hardened shell that protects the entire body. These odd structures, which are found on the Brachydios' forearms and head, are called pounders. Bulbous and solid, a Brachydios' pounders grow directly out of its armor shell and serve as an offensive extension of it. These growths are reinforced by a special variation of the armor shell, a substance called ebon shell that is even more resistant. This additional layer of protection allows the pounders to serve as powerful weapons, able to crash into solid rock without suffering so much as a scratch. Just like the rest of the shell, they too grow and harden over time due to volcanic tempering. They are also known to vary by individual due to age and/or sex. The enormous size of this individual's pounders, for example, distinguishes him as a male. The pounders are the key feature of the forearms, but not the only one. The arm muscles themselves are notably thicker and more powerful than is typical for brute wyverns. Based on their direction and structure, these muscles seem to be specially formed to enable powerful punches and jabs, maximizing the force created by the pounders on impact. Upon closer inspection of the arms, one can discover that despite the forearm's bizarre shape, the Brachydios does in fact still possess two long clawed fingers, which are generally folded underneath the pounder. They are, however, rigid and lack any significant range of motion. Most scholars consider them vestigial, in fact. But while a Brachydios has never been sighted using these claws as weapons, observations in New World individuals have yielded a curious insight. When in battle, a Brachydios may sometimes dig its fingers into the ground to serve as a fulcrum, pivoting its body around them to perform surprisingly fast turns when trying to outmaneuver an opponent. Naturally, the pounders of this species immediately became a highly attractive topic of research among the scholars of the Royal Academy and the Hunters Guild. Such unusual structures were surely the result of some kind of specialization, but not even the most daring acolyte could have predicted what academia would find once it cut open such a pounder. They are partially hollow. A Brachydios pounder consists of 3 layers. The outer layer is an extension of the armor shell, a hardened carapace that constitutes the structure's major defensive tissue. The innermost layer is a core made of keratinized material, adding weight and heft to the pounder. But between these two layers lies a buffer zone consisting of a porous lattice structure. Such a structure was easily explainable for the pounder on the head, as this layer build would protect the skull from the impacts the pounder was bound to suffer. But for the pounders on the Brachydios' arms, this made less sense. Why would the wyvern sacrifice the sturdiness of its trusted weapon like this? The answer lies in another peculiar trait of the Brachydios. The tips of its pounders had been noted to be covered in a bright green, mucus-like substance, and the same material was found within the lattice layer of the pounder's insides. This substance was soon after found to be a type of colonial bacteria that manifests as a kind of slime mold in sufficient densities. Moreover, this slime mold has since been understood to be a symbiotic partner of the Brachydios, with the two species forming a complex beneficial bond. The basic underlying mechanic of this symbiosis seems to be the slime mold's peculiar reproductive cycle. It requires 3 conditions to be able to reproduce: contact with air, momentum, and physical impact. When these 3 conditions are met, the slime mold is activated into its fruiting state, where it transitions from its usual green color to yellow and then to red. A short while after reaching this stage, the affected slime mold detonates in a fiery explosion that kills off the exploding parts of the mold. As they die, however, the bacteria release large clusters of germ cells, scattering them around such that they land on other surfaces, where they can immediately begin growing into a new mold colony. Growing and gathering on the pounders of the Brachydios is thus a reliable way to regularly fulfill the 3 conditions for reproduction, as the wyvern often swings its pounders around while in combat. In exchange for aiding with its reproduction, the slime mold grants the Brachydios the destructive power of its explosions, enhancing the physical attacks of the wyvern with the resulting detonations. This symbiosis even confers a degree of control onto the Brachydios. Through the process of coevolution, the Brachydios has adapted to produce a chemical compound from the tip of its tongue that can serve as nourishment for the slime mold. Thus, when the wyvern decides that it needs more slime, it can lick its pounders to promote growth in the slime mold at command. In higher quantities, this compound can also artificially induce the fruiting stage in slime mold. The Brachydios can take this control even further once it grows enraged during combat. As the wyvern's body temperature spikes, the nourishing chemical in its saliva begins to evaporate and is exhaled through the Brachydios' mouth. This vapor envelops the body and stimulates the slime mold to grow rapidly and spread across the entire body of the wyvern, while also entering its agitated fruiting state and turning yellow. During this state, the slime mold explodes more rapidly and violently, matching the raging fury of its host. Just like the symbiosis seen between Zinogre and thunderbugs, the bond shared by Brachydios and its slime mold is extremely effective and raises both species' ecological dominance significantly. Consequently, both species work overtime to nurture and maintain this bond. Brachydios dutifully lick their pounders to nourish their mold colonies, ensuring a healthy and happy population. For its part, the slime mold appears to be instinctively attracted towards bonding with the Brachydios, as scattered germ cells will grow unusually quickly if they come into contact with such a host, and will migrate into the pounders just as rapidly. In addition, once bonded, the slime mold cannot be entirely removed from the Brachydios, although small clusters of it can be washed off through exposure to water. The slime mold found on Brachydios remains an extremely valuable avenue of scholarship to this day. Retrieving samples of it directly from the body of a Brachydios is naturally a very risky endeavor, but hunters of the guild are more than capable of doing so under the right conditions. One insight that close study of the slime mold has already yielded is that it is not actually a single species. While it is often referred to as such by hunters, the characteristic mucus that binds together dense slime mold colonies is actually an amalgam of different bacteria, some of which are considered harmful to humans and pose a risk of infection. Armed with the explosive power of its slime mold companion, a Brachydios is a ferocious predator that makes clever use of its peculiar abilities. The explosions produced by the mold combine with the wyvern's own muscle strength to allow for devastating strikes from its pounders. Subsequently, a Brachydios is capable of breaking through the hides of its prey with ease, blasting it apart violently. Few enemies can survive past the initial assault, but should an encounter drag on, the Brachydios may display its masterful combat skills. Its powerful hind legs allow it to leap great distances and move its massive body quickly, which the Brachydios uses to reposition itself constantly. It may also strike at enemies using its heavy hexagonal tail tip. The ultimate goal is to destroy the enemy in one blow. If that is not possible, then Plan B generally seems to be to cover the target in significant quantities of primed slime mold, letting it detonate while attached to the target's body. To achieve this, a Brachydios may lay traps of slime puddles all around the battlefield, which have the additional effect of restricting the opponent's movements. The Brachydios' most destructive move, however, occurs when the wyvern plunges its head pounder into the ground. This maneuver signals the mold on the head to disperse subterraneously, creating a massive field of primed slime puddles that burst forth from the earth itself. If performed while the Brachydios has already primed its entire colony into the yellow fruiting state, this move can instantly incinerate a vast area. It is safe to say that Brachydios are extremely powerful creatures, and we are lucky that they do not appear near human settlements. While they are generally considered a volcanic species of wyvern, their habitat is a surprisingly intricate matter. The truth seems to be that a Brachydios spends its youth near volcanoes in order to properly develop its armor shell. Once this stage has been reached, some individuals may choose to stay in volcanic zones, whereas others may migrate away. It is unknown what exactly determines this behavior. As a result, Brachydios can be found in different regions as well, most notably Arctic tundras. The choice to leave their home volcano or stay appears to have various effects on an individual Brachydios' physiology, most notably its shell. Brachydios that migrate into tundras have been noted to display a different shell composition and structure compared to those that remain in volcanic regions their entire lives. It is a tough life, exposed to the most vicious elements of our world all alone. Or at least mostly alone. While being generally solitary, a Brachydios does occasionally encounter other members of its species, although this is usually prevented through territorial markings made by leaving behind distinctive slime residues at key locations. Should a meeting occur in spite of this, the size of the Brachydios' pseudofangs, the girth of its pounders, and the vibrance of its slime mold are used to determine and enforce a social hierarchy. This mostly comes into play during the mating season, a time where male and female Brachydios congregate in large groups, and the males are ranked based on their physical characteristics such as the size of their pounders, alongside the quality and density of their slime mold. The highest ranked male gains mating rights, whereas the lower ranked individuals must choose to either mate in secret or challenge their superiors in a test of strength. Once mating has occurred and a new generation has been sired, the juvenile Brachydios remain with their parents. This, however, is not a close or warm bond. Brachydios parents do nothing to actively parent their young or protect them from harm, instead merely tolerating their presence within their territory until the child is grown. Juvenile Brachydios can be easily distinguished from adults by their softer and more colorful shell. These wyverns do not yet possess the hard, obsidian-laced armor at birth, so their initial shell is a lot less resistant before it grows and develops throughout their adolescence. Since a juvenile's shell has also not yet been blackened by explosions and volcanic heat, it is notably more vibrant than those seen in adult Brachydios. The only inheritance a juvenile Brachydios receives from its parents is the slime mold, which it acquires from them shortly after birth. This gift does not come without dangers, however, as depending on the exact qualities and shape of the juvenile's shell, it may not be able to withstand the explosions caused by its own slime, and perish, unfortunately, soon after birth. As a result, Brachydios have a high rate of infant mortality, and only the strongest individuals that master the slime mold survive into adulthood. Insights such as these are the reason why Brachydios are still studied extensively, even though doing so poses a great risk to any that seek them out. This research continues to produce fascinating discoveries, though. For example, it was found that the Brachydios' bone marrow is extremely sticky and, curiously, makes for an excellent medium to use in welding and metalworking. Another interesting find was that while the Brachydios grows a gem inside of its body like many other wyverns, its jewels seem to be special. Brach gems appear to be related to the origins of the Brachydios' symbiotic bond with the slime mold, and some scholars even believe that these gems hold the secret to controlling the volatile substance. Beyond its physiology, the Brachydios' behavior has also remained quite relevant to academic studies. Witnessing a herd of Brachydios during the mating season has revealed that even these solitary juggernauts succumb to the purest of all insecurities: worries about social and sexual status. Male Brachydios are extremely competitive and will seek out ways to trounce rivals and gain social dominance. As this seems to be related strongly to the quality and density of their slime mold, it is no surprise that male Brachydios take meticulous care of their colonies, aiming to replenish them especially as the mating season looms. Not only do these insights constitute a fascinating glimpse at the more sensitive side of this brute wyvern species, but they also catalyzed another, equally incredible discovery. Shortly after the initial discovery of the Brachydios, scholars uncovered old documents that described a similar creature. A brute wyvern wielding battering rams that detonated on impact. But the creature described in the documents also seemed to differ from the known Brachydios in some key ways. The ancient wyvern was described to wield the arms of rage, which pulsated with a red glow that contrasted against the monster's emerald shell. These inconsistencies were initially written off as merely the fancies of an ancient scribe, but over time, another, more exciting possibility took hold of the Academy's brightest minds. That perhaps there was still a relative of the Brachydios that had not been discovered yet. In short order, search parties were sent out while intellectuals from across the guild sought to decipher the ancient text's secrets. And before long, this new kind of Brachydios was spotted, a creature that is now known as a raging Brachydios. Initial reporters were dazzled by the sheer size of this wyvern. A raging Brachydios can reach up to 8 meters in height and a gargantuan 22 meters in length, towering over the regular Brachydios by a significant margin. It is also covered in a different kind of shell, an armor of emerald green carapace that matches the descriptions found in the ancient texts. Beyond such basic physical descriptions, the raging Brachydios was long considered a mystery, and the exact nature of its relationship to the common species was unknown. That all changed, however, when a research team returned with a sample of slime mold recovered. A sample that blew the case wide open. Analysis of this slime mold revealed that it was not the same as the kind found on regular Brachydios. Instead, it appeared to be a mutated strain of slime mold, subsequently named Flashpoint Slime by the Royal Academy. The ensuing research frenzy soon uncovered the origins of this mutated slime. Usually, slime mold spores that are spread around by a Brachydios immediately grow into new colonies, ready to carry on their genetic mission. But rarely, for reasons that remain unknown, slime mold spores do not immediately begin growing and instead sink into the earth, concentrating into subterranean clusters that lie dormant. During this period, the spore clusters may absorb volcanic energy from the deeper layers of our world, which are known to brim with primordial powers beyond our understanding. Once a critical amount of energy has been absorbed, these spores grow and emerge from the earth like a viscous spring, having completed their transformation into flashpoint slime. Due to its exposure to subterranean energies, flashpoint slime is notably more volatile than it was before. This mutant strain seems to always exist in its yellow subprimed state and can explode at any moment, seemingly able to circumvent the usual conditions necessary for reproduction. The explosions created by the flashpoint slime are also much more violent than those seen in the regular strain. Flashpoint slime also appears to be much rarer than the regular variation, as it has only ever been found in 2 locations, Ingle Isle in the Old World and the Guiding Lands region in the New World. What these areas might have in common that allows for the creation of flashpoint slime has, so far, not been determined. Nevertheless, the discovery of flashpoint slime snapped the truth behind the raging Brachydios into sharp focus, as the wyvern is covered in this mutant slime from head to toe. Raging Brachydios were soon found to not be a separate species at all, but rather a variant. Specifically, they were once regular male Brachydios that sought to improve their social standing by accumulating greater amounts of slime mold. In their search, these males stumbled upon the flashpoint slime and successfully bonded with it. The mutant slime naturally began to alter the body of the wyvern as a result. Exposure to its volatile compounds distorted the Brachydios' shell, granting it not just the color, but also the chemical properties of emeralds. Curiously, the flashpoint slime is not responsible for the raging Brachydios' large size. Instead, this is a case of selective bias. Bonding with the flashpoint slime is dangerous, as its volatility can easily cause the mold to explode and kill the would-be host in the process. As a result, only the healthiest and strongest Brachydios survive bonding with the flashpoint slime. Thus, it is not that raging Brachydios grow larger than regular Brachydios. Rather, only the largest regular Brachydios survive the transformation into a raging Brachydios. Armed with this new weapon, raging Brachydios are the undisputed kings among their kind. The flashpoint slime confers onto them greater explosive power, allowing them to dominate both prey and kin alike. A notable trait of the raging Brachydios is its tendency to spread its slime across vast areas, often shedding great quantities all at once. While this obviously improves the deadliness of its attacks, it also seems to be a matter of self-preservation. Flashpoint slime is anything but stable, and as it continues to grow on the wyvern's body, it threatens to reach criticality and self-detonate. As this poses a serious risk to the raging Brachydios, the variant wyvern will regularly shake off excess slime to prevent criticality. However, do not mistake this as a weakness. New World raging Brachydios were found to exhibit a peculiar behavior only when pushed to the absolute limit, usually by high-ranking monster hunters. In these cases, the injured wyvern will seemingly flee, leading its enemy into its nest and into an ambush. After blocking off the opponent's escape, the raging Brachydios will stimulate a mysterious organ called an immortal reactor. This bizarre structure serves one purpose, and one purpose only: to instantly induce criticality in all of the flashpoint slime on the raging Brachydios' body. Once active, the immortal reactor will cause the flashpoint slime to reach its most destructive state and explode in a nigh-endless cycle. After this, the raging Brachydios can wield the slime in its most destructive form and decimate its enemies. But it does so at a heavy cost. Criticality causes the flashpoint slime to explode even while still on and inside of the wyvern's body, causing extreme damage. The violent heat of this maneuver distorts the shell of the raging Brachydios as well, blackening its emerald armor into a charred, dark carapace steaming with the force of 1,000 blasts. The raging Brachydios must then destroy his enemy before his body gives out, which it does by creating massive ponds of flashpoint slime while pummeling the target with all of its strength. The beast's message in this moment could not be more clear. The activation of the immortal reactor is an invitation to a battle to the death. The violence of a brute wyvern given form, the tenacity of a fighter imposed upon its domain. Once this state has been reached, the only conclusion is death for one of the warriors. The flashpoint burns away as the air hums with the raging beat of an immortal heart. Thank you everyone so much for watching. As always, I hope you had a good start into the new year, And I really hope you check out Guild Surplus. We worked really hard on these items, and I think some of you will really enjoy them. As usual, a big thank you to everyone who supports the channel via YouTube channel memberships or Patreon. I would like to extend special thanks to A. Jackson, Admiral Frost, Alistair in Wonderland, Artur Centeno, Austin, Autumns, Black Ace 202, B, Bruggy, British Empire, Chocolate Coat, Claire Miboon, Darkest, Dragonlord, Dissy, Error Code, Ethan Toombs, Feopuz, Fey/Sleepy Tiki, Fjiden, Glitch NPC, Harpier, Hashi, Hellbug Hunter, Hutsan. I'm just happy to be here. Inepts, Iron Camel, It's Robin Now, Jacob Coleman, Jacob the Numbnut, Joey Tribby 58, Magenta, Yuriv, Carl the Crab, Kelly Barnett, Kogath, Legsages, Lieferdienst, Logan Bilodeau, Lucidius Flow, Lufish, M1have12, Macaroni Leviathan, Makamaui, Makot02, MadHat124, Meta Defiance, Mr. Pyramid, Molly Mockery, Morgul Blank, My Name Gone, Nils Schlatter, Noah Schantz, Oakwood Tree, Paige Gandalf Soda, Person 212, Freakoom King, Panonym, Quali, Rambling Robin, Raspberry, Regal Eagle, Resident Neko Arc, Ronger 97, Rose, Ryan Hook, Skiba, Shebo, Silly Wizard 97, Siragon, Sir Newt, Soruka, Tacty Wolf, The Dollarfish, Thick, Unk with Good Puss, Uthduna is an Octopus, Varaxus, Vulgar Beast, Wandering Soul, Zaffi, Zeno Garcia, Zion H.V. Augenson, Zyperius Volkvar, and Kuroneko. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you around. Bye bye.